ESPN The Zone. Welcome to the Morning Blitz with John Abraham, Captain Cool, and the Bandiman Bailey Lowery. Call into the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline now, 256-576-4977. That's 256-576-4977. Now, here's Captain Cool.
Hello and welcome in to a Madhouse Monday here in No Man's Land. John Abraham, Captain Cool, alongside the Bandiman Bailey Lowery, and today we got a lot of fun stuff to get into because, of course, a action-packed weekend has just come and gone. Now, there's a few things that I want to hop into that are not going to make some people happy, and I can understand that because this weekend probably couldn't have gone that much worse than how it did if you're an Alabama fan. But if we look over at the NCAA tournament over in baseball, you see Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas A&M, Georgia, and now possibly LSU and Florida, if they do win today in their respected games, will be moving on to the Super Regionals. So it's a big win for the SEC, but that's because there were so many teams that were thrown into the tournament in the first place that, I mean, you're bound to get a few. It's not going to be the repeat of the basketball scene where, you know, you get a bunch of SEC squads, they lose in the first round, and then we kind of forget about that and just look forward to the few teams that are left. But then we still have the teams that lost. Mississippi State, Alabama, Arkansas, Vandy, South Carolina, they're all going home. And, of course, we're still pending the LSU and Florida, so there could be more than just these few teams. But you see the way that Vanderbilt lost, and it's upsetting. You see the way Arkansas lost, one of the top teams in the country, it's upsetting. You see Alabama lose, and in the way that they did lose was probably one of the hardest things to really just, like, take. It was not a good showing from the Crimson Tide. They played UCF, of course, I believe that was on Saturday, and it did not go the way they wanted. Of course, the offense was hidden, and it was doing a wonderful job. And, of course, we'll talk with one Mr. Drudy Armand from a Talking Ball later on in the show. But you get out-hit by a team like UCF. You lose that game 8-7. Very close matchup, very fun matchup. And then you look forward to a team like Stetson. A team that you're probably supposed to win against, especially coming from, you know, the top conference in all of baseball, and you don't hit at all. The pitching was a little bit better, but you're going up against Stetson, you give up 4, and you lose in Tallahassee. And you're 2-out, and you're done for the rest of the season. Now, over in softball, wasn't much better.
Yeah.
They lose their first game. They play up against Duke. They win 2-1. Not too much to really show for. And then you finish it off with a loss to Florida, which is going to be a tough challenge anytime you're having to go up against conference opponents inside of the tournament. So Alabama out of that tournament. World Series really cooking up in the softball scene. In the baseball scene, a little bit different. Bandy, what are your opinions on this whole weekend for Crimson Tide athletics?
I mean, I'm kind of with you on the baseball front, like going against UCF. I mean, the UCF game definitely could have turned out better. Stetson, though, I mean, you're recording for the same amount of hits, like both teams going 5 for 5, like 5 hits at the plate. Mm-hmm. I'm saying 5 a lot, but that run differential, just Stetson's ability to be able to convert those on-base runners into runs, not leaving a lot of men on base, and then it really just we couldn't get the offense moving against Stetson, and it's an unfortunate end to Alabama baseball, but again, Rob Vaughn's second year. Going into year 3,
it's his first year.
Oh,
you bring him in.
That's right. It is his first year.
It's weird to think because last year
I feel like he's already been here a year.
Yeah, they had an interim. Well, I mean, now he's finally been here for a season. But yeah, I mean, you have to have the situation that goes on last year with Alabama baseball. They still get on and have a successful rest of the season.
Yeah, like he had to take over like into the playoffs right after he got canned.
Yeah, and then they pick up Rob Vaughn going into this season. He shows some good life, okay, and that goes for any SEC team. It was just a very good year for all of those squads. Rest in peace, Vanderbilt Athletics altogether, just because that was just a rough year for them. But, you know, you get a guy like Ben Hess. He's pitching in the first few innings, And you really see, like the defense is there. All right, he strikes out 8. He's able to really just hold this team for a few innings. I mean, he goes for 6.5. All right, and then Austin Morris comes in, and this is kind of when things started kind of falling apart. All right, it wasn't really his fault. It was the defense in general. But I mean, coming off of that UCF loss, it's tough because I've seen it happen in football before, where 1 week you're up, 2 touchdowns, the team comes back. And then you're playing up against an easier opponent the next week or the next day in this case. And you kind of just don't have the same motivation you did going into the tournament in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we saw whenever Stetson, the 41-21 squad, beat a 33-24 SEC Alabama team, which again is a tough one for them. But it's not all bad for guys that, who had some connection with Alabama. Because, I mean, Bandy, we look at one guy, Tyler Buckner, former Alabama quarterback, winning a national championship with Notre Dame lacrosse.
This is this whole plan all along.
This is what it's all about. And then to make the transition, not just from Alabama back to Notre Dame, from, Notre Dame in the first place, but now he's going back to football. And he's saying, you know what? Screw the quarterback position. I don't even want to do it anymore, all right? I had like a 50% chance, or I had a 50% rating, on most things. And now, I think I'll be a wide receiver. I think I'll be a wide receiver.
Yeah, so that's just funny to me, this whole Tyler Buckner story. For one, how you transitioned into it was great.
Yeah.
But what we got, you go back to Notre Dame. You win a national championship in lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're saying, all right, I'm going to play football again. Like, I don't want to play football. I want to go play lacrosse.
Bandy, the last time we saw this...
Now I'm going to play football.
We saw this guy do a 40-yard dash back in, 2018, and it wasn't bad. It was better than when I was running back in high school. He ran like a 4.65 or something like that. And if you want to be a wide receiver, I know he's going to be a walk-on. He's going to try at least.
You're going to need that 4.4.
You're going to need to be a little bit faster than that, especially in a Power 4 team like Notre Dame that is trying to actually win national championships. He might be on the roster. He might be the X factor that they throw at any position on the offense if they need it. But I don't see him actually starting for a football team unless he really tries to get back into that quarterback spot. But even that wasn't looking too good for him. So stick to lacrosse. There's some professional leagues. You can play some arena lacrosse if you're really down for that type of stuff.
I've actually never seen professional lacrosse.
Really?
Only collegiate. Even on TV.
Yeah, I think Tom used to actually do play-by-play for a lacrosse team up in New York.
Oh, that's sick.
So, yeah, there's some cool little tidbit. He's probably told you guys 1,000 times. But either way, got a lot of fun to come here on this episode. You guys will be able to hop in 256-5764.
97.7
is the number to get in. And if you're not one to want to call into a radio show, we understand it. We want you to, because we definitely want to hear what you guys have to say about your stories, your teams, all of that hullabaloo. You can also find us on YouTube at WZZN TV, where you can use our chat box to the left of me, and Bandy will keep me up with all of that. And you definitely want to tune in on Fridays as well, as we got a new little game that we started playing last week. Good job from Richard. I believe he was able to win. It's where we kind of throw out a few little tips, a little hints at a football player, and then you guys are going to be able to guess it at the end, and you guys are going to be able to win some cool stuff with us. Bandy, another really cool thing that happened over the weekend is with a school that no longer exists. And I think this is this is a future 30 for 30. I know there's a few documentaries already being set up for this whole storyline, but Birmingham Southern has done something that nobody else could say they've done, and that's win a national title without even having a trophy case to put that trophy in, which is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. I understand schools can't last forever, even though this one felt like it did. I believe it was like 160-something years, Bandy, that Birmingham Southern was around. But now that school's gone, and Birmingham Southern was at least able to, do something to really hype up the people that really cared about this school. And of course, it being in Alabama, it's definitely going to mean something to us. But they were able to win the Division III World Series just yesterday, I believe.
Actually, we got some news out of it. They were eliminated from the World Series.
Oh, they actually lost?
They were eliminated from the World Series by Wisconsin Whitewater. And, I mean, you want to talk about just a heartbreaking end to a game. It was an 11-10 walk-off by Wisconsin.
Oh, that's how it happened. Okay.
First pitch in the bottom of a ninth.
Golly.
Like, you hate to see it.
I'm like Penske Racing announcing that Ryan Blaney was the one that won that race just yesterday, when he, in fact, wasn't, because his engine exploded.
It exploded?
It exploded, Bandy. It was on the last lap. Oh, no. He ran out of gas. I'm thinking about the other guy that was leading, and that was for Joe Gibbs Racing. It was Christopher Bell. His engine actually exploded with 19 laps to go.
This is all in the same race?
This is all in the same race. It's absolutely ridiculous what's going on in NASCAR. And if you guys missed the Enjoy Illinois 400, then you guys are missing out. But, that's what happened here. I threw out the wrong thing. I was honestly just hyping up this because I wanted it to be a story. But we'll say, Birmingham Southern, good stuff from them, even though they didn't win the national title, all right, the D3. They lost in the series, though, the World Series, right, Bandy? I'm not wrong about okay.
Yes, the D3 World Series.
Did that. All right, so they were able to at least get there. That's very upsetting, though. I had no idea. They also had to deal with food poisoning throughout this tournament, which is something that us Alabama fans know all too well, because Alabama was still recovering some of their players from that food poisoning that happened during the regular season of baseball. So, there's a little bit of another side to these stories, but again, just a tough story out of Birmingham Southern, as that school is non-existent, and it hasn't existed now for the last 3 years. So now we'll just remember them in history books.
Man, I mean that is unfortunate, because like back in like early middle school, like kind of even going to high school a little bit, like, because again, hey, for those who don't really know that about me, went to Randolph for a good bit, up until high school. But we used to take summer camps, like for the basketball team. We would drive out to Birmingham Southern as a team, do just like scrimmage games there against other teams as well, like in our classification. Sometimes not within our classification, as it got a little lopsided.
You have to do what you got to do.
But I mean, it was pretty much like a weekend, almost a week, where you're just like, you're hanging out with the boys, you're hanging out with the team, and it's just a great bonding experience and great learning too. Like being able to play up against really a multitude of talent there at that camp. And I mean, I don't know if they still do them anymore, but
now they definitely don't.
Yeah, but now they definitely don't. And
not at Birmingham Southern.
Man, that's tough to see. I got a lot of good memories there.
I can understand that, yeah. And for me, that's like if Centennial High School up in Franklin, Tennessee went and closed down, because I used to do some camps there, some football camps right there, and it was something that I enjoyed very much so. I even have a jersey from being one of the top dudes at the camp, helping out these younger kids kind of growing up throughout football. But, Bandy, we got to hop into a break, because we got a lot of other storylines to get into, and I cannot segue them like I could the other stories. So we're just going to hit a break, and we're going to come back with more fun to come here on the Morning Blitz on a Madhouse Monday on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, the Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandiman. At noon, it's the Tom Abraham Show, followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
And if you need representation for car accident, wrongful death, medical malpractice, nursing home abuse, or estate planning, or any other matter, just give us a call at 256-534-3188, and you can email me at Dan, that is Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. Dan at danaldridgelaw.com. God bless America.
No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Specializing in simple and affordable rentals, McCurry Van and Car Rental can make sure you have just the right vehicle for your next family vacation, weekend getaway, or if you just need transportation while your vehicle is being repaired. McCurry carries Ford Transit vans and Mercedes Sprinter vans, trucks and work vans, and more. And they offer discounted rental rates for long-term rentals. Now with 4 locations: Athens, Muscle Shoals, Coleman, and Huntsville. Log on McCurryRentals.com to make your reservation now. That's McCurryRentals.com.
And now another no-brainer money-saving tip from Progressive.
That doesn't sound good.
Paper shredder's jammed, but I think I fixed it.
Oh, well, try shredding these $50 bills then.
Seems like it's working.
Better try another $400.
Stop. Instead of using money, use regular paper. And here's a better tip from Progressive on how not to waste money. Don't pay too much for car insurance. Drivers who switch and save could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
There's the phone and no one to answer.
256-576-4977.
And as a result, we got many, many phone calls and letters.
Give us a call on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline today. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Hello and welcome back into the Morning Blitz. John Abraham, Cam Cool, alongside the Bandiman, Bailey Lowery.
Hey.
And before we talk about this fire, let's talk a little bit about the ice. I want to go over to the NHL side of things because we finally have the Stanley Cup Finals just thrown out at us. And for the first time since 2006, the Oilers are in the Stanley Cup. And this is the first Canadian team since 2011 to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals, since the Vancouver Canucks back in 2011, and they have the chance to be the first team to win the Stanley Cup Finals from Canada since 1993, where the Canadians, very fitting, won it, and so now there's big stuff going on, and I gotta admit, for this team, I talked about it. Oh, well, whoever wins in the West, I guess it's the West, is going to end up winning it all. As we obviously look over to, the two teams that were facing off over there is the Rangers versus the Panthers. The Panthers were able to get the win. And then we looked over to the Oilers and the Stars, and it was like, who's going to get the Panthers and who's going to lose that game? Who's going to lose in the championship matchup? But the more I look at this Oilers team, the more I just see resilience. All right, and I don't think it's, any knock on the Dallas Stars. I think they were a great team. I didn't see them being able to push forward to the finals and actually win. But now we're looking at an Oilers team coming from a country that has not seen a Stanley Cup for over a decade. And then we also look at a Florida team that, if you're a good Florida fan. You're happy if you're a Florida fan. You love hockey as well because you had the Tampa Bay Lightning going on to the Stanley Cup Finals for 3 years. And now for the last 2 years, you get the Florida Panthers in there. And I don't know if you hate one of the other teams, but, you're cooking down there in Florida. And now we look at this Oilers team that they're going to be facing off against. And there's a few guys that you can look at. And you can think, these are dangerous guys. These are dangerous dudes you don't want to go up against. Now, you're not going to have the goalie that you had, like Bobrovsky, over for the Panthers, but you will have some of the playmakers that even the Florida Panthers don't even have, like Connor McDavid, who is an absolute freak on the ice. He was able to start things off in the first 5 minutes of that game against the Dallas Stars, able to get a goal, able to get those Edmonton fans rowdy. Let me tell you. Everybody in that stinking area of Canada, which I don't know how many people Edmonton holds, but I know it's probably not too many, is going crazy, all right? Because this is what they live for right here, is this Edmonton Oilers team to be good. On top of that, you got Leon Draisaitl, who is also just putting in the big work. And then, you even look to the goalie side of things. You get Stuart Skinner. And the weirdest thing about this game against the Stars, the last game that they just played, was that he had to save 34 shots on goal to get this win. You want to know how many the Oilers were able to shoot against this Dallas Stars team, Bandy?
Wait, how many?
They shot 10.
Oh.
They shot 10.
So they were 2 of 10? Ooh.
And well, listen, just hold on for a second. They were able to score on 2 of those.
Yeah.
And it just throws all of the credit that goes to, the Stars, their goaltending that they've had throughout the playoffs. It just throws it down the drain.
Yeah, but I got a theory.
Okay, what?
Because look, the Dallas Mavericks made it to the NBA Finals.
Okay.
One team from Dallas had to go.
One team. Just
One team wasn't going to make it.
No, they expect one of us in the wreckage, brother.
And that team was the Dallas Stars.
They expect one of us in the wreckage, brother.
That team was the Dallas Stars. One team had to take the fall, not be able to make the championship in Dallas.
No.
Because you couldn't have 3 teams in the playoffs and all 3 of them make it.
Well, I mean, Tom's talked about some of those cool little storylines about the last time that we've seen the Dallas, Stars or multiple teams from the same city going into the finals. Okay. And there were a few funny things. The one funny thing we can say is the Dallas Stars, as well as the Mavericks, have gone farther than any of the Cowboys, seasons in the last decade plus, maybe more than that. So I think that's the craziest thing about all of it, and I feel for a guy that does frequently listen to the programming, who is a Dallas Cowboys fan. He's also a fan of the Mets, so that doesn't make it any better. You guys probably know who I'm talking about, but we're definitely feeling for him. Hopefully he is a Mavericks fan. I've never heard him talk about the Mavericks. We're talking about Philip, of course. If you are a Mavericks fan, we wish you the best of luck because, of course, Bandy. I almost called you Dandy for a second. Do you know a little reference to that?
A little Dandy.
Yeah. He favors this Mavericks team against the Celtics.
Mavs in 5.
Yeah, you're thinking that. I don't know.
I think Boston takes 1 in Boston.
Okay.
But I've got the Mavericks in 5. They're going to win it in Dallas.
All right. I'm not too away from that. Okay.
Well, actually, wait, no. The Boston Celtics are going to be hosting first, so now they're going to win Game 5 in Boston.
Yeah. That's going to be lit, all right? We don't want to see – I mean, I personally don't want to see the Celtics win it, all right? When it comes to Boston, there's only one team that I like, and that's the Boston Bruins. So I'm not a part of that Twitter page that's got all things Boston, the New England Patriots, which they hardly talk about until that team's going to be relevant again. But I only follow the Boston Bruins when it comes down to it. I couldn't care less about any of the other squads. Another big thing that's happening up north is a wide receiver getting paid some big money. And we're not talking about Waddle. We talked about that last week. But Justin Jefferson just received a humongous – I just came up with a new word because it's humongous bag in the form of his 4-year, $140 million extension. And you know what?
110 guaranteed.
He doesn't even need to play, all right? That's the thing. You get 110 guaranteed. He could live the rest of his life having a wonderful time.
Him and Daniel Jones just chilling on a beach house.
Golly, having a wonderful, wonderful time.
Clinking those scotch glasses together like, hey, man, we're getting paid. We don't even – like, we're good.
But I want to look at this Viking squad.
It's going to be terrible for my fantasy team, though.
And this is, I know, if you want to pick up Justin Jefferson, be wary. Because when they get paid these big contracts, look for a little bit of a drop-off in their first season with it. Because they're not going to have to really do much of anything to earn any more money. They're already getting quite a bit. Let's look at this Vikings wide receiver core. And maybe the team all together. They got Justin Jefferson, big-time wide receiver. He's still young. He's still able to make some plays. You got a guy like Jordan Addison, very young, going into his second season in the NFL, had a very, very productive first season. And then you have a guy coming over from the Rams in the form of Brandon Powell. He obviously played a little bit for this squad last year as well. He's 27 years old, so he's a little bit farther through his football career, but still able to put up some big numbers, even though I don't think this is the strongest wide receiver core as it used to be. I still think it is a very powerful one. But similar to the Tennessee Titans situation, who's going to be the guy to throw them the ball? All right, Will Levis for the Titans, a little bit shaky at times. They've got a wonderful wide receiver core, but I can't name it as, a top 3, top 5, just because they need a solid quarterback to throw them the guy. Bandy, the 2 quarterbacks that I'm looking at that are going to be fighting it out, and maybe we can throw in 2 other ones as well, are going to be the one Mr. Sam Darnold.
Okay.
He's booked as the starter currently, and J.J. McCarthy. There's concerns about J.J. McCarthy, how he's actually going to perform on the field. Obviously, he's got a great mindset. He's able to kind of calm his own nerves, meditate on the sidelines, all that he wants. That might be his touchdown thing. That might be the new thing. Instead of taking a knee, you just get down, crisscross applesauce, and meditate for a few seconds. That's the J.J. McCarthy way.
It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not a Minnesota Vikings fan, but if I saw my quarterback doing that pregame in the NFL, I'd be like, we're cooked.
Well, at least he doesn't have painted nails. At least he doesn't have painted nails.
I'll take painting the nails pregame over meditating.
Okay, all right. Well, that's totally fine, too. Nick Mullins is the third-string quarterback. And Jaron Hall, who I feel like has been on this squad multiple times, after getting released, is also on this team. So you look at the quarterback room, I'd give it probably a B, just a solid B. I wouldn't give it anything more, anything less. I think we can go from there. Sam Darnold as the starter, a little shaky. But they do have a little bit of help at the running back position. He's not getting paid as much as one Mr. Justin Jefferson. And it's Aaron Jones, who, again, came over from the Packers, in division type of trade right here. That's going to cause a stir, especially when these Vikings play up against the Packers 2 times over the course of their season. But I see the Vikings right now as a 3 or 4 team right here inside of that division. I think the Lions are going to be better. I think the Packers are going to be better. You go down that list a little bit more. Chicago's going to have a shaky season. I think it's going to be a 3 or 4 spot for this Minnesota Vikings team, regardless of how much they just paid Justin Jefferson. If we look at the wide receivers that are getting paid the most, it goes Justin Jefferson at the tippity top. All right, he's getting annually $35 million off of that new contract. Then you get A.J. Brown from the Philadelphia Eagles. He's getting annual $32 million, and he got a huge extension during this offseason, $96 million throughout 3 years. Amon-Ra St. Brown is another one of those top-paid wide receivers, sitting at the 3 spot. He got a 4-year extension, just over $120 million. 77 of that is guaranteed. He'll be making $30 million a year. Tyreek Hill still sitting on his first contract with the Miami Dolphins, $30 million a year. He had a 4-year, $120 million extension when he was with, I believe, the Chiefs. And then from there on out, it kind of just worked back and forth with the Chiefs and the Dolphins to give him his money. And then to round it all out, Jalen Waddle sitting at number 5. So you get 2 Miami Dolphins wide receivers in the top 5 highest paid wide receivers in the NFL. Of course, he just got paid a pretty hefty bag just last week. That's going to be paying him $84 million.
So a lot of investment over there in Miami. So, I mean, praying it works out. Cross my fingers.
Let's hope it works out.
Because I like Miami.
But nobody's caring currently about what the wide receivers are making or what this team is looking like. Everybody's caring about what one Mr. Tua Tagovailoa is looking like. And I got to say, I am not going to give in to that TMZ type of reporting.
No.
Instead, we'll hop out of this segment and we'll talk with one Mr. Drew DeArmond from Talking Ball when we get back here on the Morning Blitz on
97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, the Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandiman. At noon, it's the Tom Abraham Show, followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
repair during regular hours. So
okay, it's Talent Heating and Air. Give them a call at
256-503-4490.
You can also find them online at
that's talenthvac.com.
Give Talent Heating and Air a call today.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
So we touched on it previously in the show. Alabama having a tough weekend, but there is some good to take out of it. But before we get into that storyline with Drew DeArmond from Talking Ball on our station, I'd like to remind you that this show is presented by Fleming Roofing and Restoration, the guys you need to talk to about all of your roofing needs. If you're having any roofing problems, make sure you look them up online at FlemingHSV.com to fill out your free quote today. And remember that Fleming always shows up. Now, to get into the Alabama Crimson Tide news, it's one Mr. Drew DeArmond from Talking Ball. Drew, there's some good to take out of it from at least the SEC perspective. But for the Crimson Tide, just a rough week. It almost couldn't have gone any worse.
Well, I mean, look, they went to a regional in Rob Bond's first year.
Yeah.
I said it was a tough draw for them. Not the worst draw, but it was going to be difficult. I didn't expect them to win the regional. Certainly was surprised they went 0-2. But this is the first year of a new head coach and a team that basically got basically rebuilt from the ground up. I mean, they definitely, without question, had to only had one starter in their original 9 from a year ago that went to the Super Regionals, and that's Matt Gassetti. In their starting 9, he was the only one to return. All the others either turned pro or were without eligibility. So they had to basically rebuild their entire ball club. So they ended up – there were some holdovers like Will Hodo, Bryce Evelyn. Evelyn went to the portal, came back. No doubt about it. There were some newcomers like Justin LeBron. LeBron probably had their best performance in the regionals and should be a superstar in the making. Now they're going to have to hold on to him due to programs. If you were listening to Talking Ball this morning, we had Gary Gilmore, who is going out, who's retiring as a longtime coach for 29 years of Coastal Carolina. Won a national championship in 2016, did Gary, and he had a tremendous Hall of Fame career, and he was talking about how difficult it is now that you have free agency at the end of every year and you have to re-recruit your players.
Yeah.
And Alabama's going to have to hold on to Justin LeBron, certainly. And we certainly will see. They're going to have to replace Matt Gassetti, who is a great leader in addition to a great defensive backstop who did a nice job, hitting the baseball for 2 years as well. I mean, he was a really solid transfer from Florida that they got a couple years ago into the previous staff. But to be honest, T.J. McCants had a good year coming out of the portal from Ole Miss, but even he had some defensive issues. It wasn't a good defensive team. They had a lot of square peg, round hole kind of guys. By the end of the year, even though he swung the bat really well and he had some really tough luck on Saturday against Stetson. But Will Hamiter went from barely playing to being your cleanup hitter because another transfer you took, Evan Slight, who had been a standout at Rutgers in the Big Ten and been voted team captain by his peers. He just, for whatever reason, the last month or so, didn't get many at-bats, and he had been really struggling at the plate. And, he was a middle-of-the-order hitter for much of the season in your 4, 5, 6 hole. And so by the end of the year, Will Hamiter is is the guy that's, unfortunately, hitting cleanup. And what I mean by that is that's just not ideal. Yeah. I mean, he did swing the bat well at times, and he had some huge hits down the stretch. But he's not really a middle-of-the-order kind of guy. You probably want him in the 7, 8, 9 holes You'd want Evan Slight producing, or have another player maybe that that you were counting on, that's a middle of the order stalwart, which is what they had a year ago. They had a very talented team, a very experienced team, but a lot of those guys were 4th and 5th year guys that had played a long time, and so you were basically you were starting over. And then your ace goes to LSU. He gets poached. Luke Holman, who lost this weekend, and I was all for it. It was glorious watching him get a crick in his neck and North Carolina take him deep. Now LSU is still alive. They came back out of the losers bracket. They beat Wofford. They beat North Carolina. There's going to be a what-if game today. No. So LSU is going to have a chance to win that. But that Luke Holman lost the game, I ain't crying about it. So he pitched pretty well, but he ended up, like a lot of times at Alabama, gave up 2 or 3 home runs, lost a tough one. Darn. No. So, but again, Alabama I was worried about their pitching going in because they've had a lot of injuries. They've had Bobby Alcock, one of their best transfers, never threw an inning. Riley Quick, who was supposed to be their 1 or 2. He pitched 3 innings before he had Tommy John. Hagan Banks went down. They just have had a lot of guys, and they don't have the depth of other programs like an LSU, like Texas A&M, where you can survive a long term without it. Mm-hmm. So I think, to be honest with you, and with everything in hindsight, I think Rob Vaughn did a good job. He got them to a regional. He got them to a 2 seed. They with a bounce here or there, they could have won even more games. They put all they had into the UCF game, and it was back and forth, and they had chances to win it. I mean, they fell behind 2-0 early, then got ahead 3-2. Then you're talking about it being 4-4, and then they led 5-4 briefly, and then it was 6-6 and 7-7 before UCF scored the ultimate winning run in the 8th inning. So. Just some tough luck for Alabama, but a good building year. Alabama's going to have to attack the portal. I think that's going to happen. I think it officially opened today. Auburn's already lost 2 or 3 guys to the portal. I'm sure Alabama's going to lose some guys, but Alabama's going to have to start, rebuilding their roster. And I do think that Rob Vaughn showed a lot of positive things, though. And when you're talking about a first-year coach, a lot of times there is a transition and a bump in the road. Very rarely is it lightning in a bottle like it was with Jim Wells back in '95. So usually there's a building year where you have to have transition, and certainly that was it for Alabama. But they got to the postseason, and it was a good run, I think, for Alabama baseball.
No doubt about that. Drew DeArmond from Talking Ball is our guest. Drew, where do they go from here? I mean, we know kind of how – we don't even know how the transfer portal really works in the college football scene or in the basketball scene because there's still so many things that are unclear to us. But in the baseball scene, it's a little bit of that third team that might get a little bit of money from backing. But how does Alabama go about getting in some of these top recruits?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about baseball-wise, you just have to sell the SEC. You're playing in the best league in the country. I know that Pat Forty of Sports Illustrated was kind of taking shots at the SEC for Alabama and Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt has a very good program. They went 0-2. But, look, you had Texas A&M, you had Kentucky, you had Tennessee. They all ran through their regionals, did a great job. LSU is still alive. Certainly they're playing in a what-if game. Florida, they were probably the last team in from the SEC. They're playing in the what-if game against Oklahoma State, so they've got a chance to go to supers. I mean, 11 is a ton of teams. You're not going to get everybody through to the super regionals. So it's still the best league. The last 3 years and 5 of the last 6 SEC national champs. It's the best league. Alabama has great support right now. Their NIL is really getting better. Rob Vaughn I don't think would have taken the job if he didn't think that the institutional support was there. So you just have to assess what you've got. And then the Major League Draft's coming up. The Major League Draft will be coming up. You'll see who you're losing signee-wise or your returnees, like a Gage Miller, what's going to happen with him, is Ben Hess. So you'll have a much better idea. But the SEC kind of sells itself. And so they've already signed several guys. I'm sure there'll be attacking the portal and trying to mine the JUCOs and the high school ranks for some late blooming type guys. But I don't think Alabama's going to have trouble recruiting. I mean, I've followed Rob Vaughn's career. Same thing happened in year one with Maryland before he started turning it around. They showed some progress. But, again, the Major League Draft's going to play a big role in it. But he and this coaching staff, I think they've established a really good culture, and I think they'll recruit well.
Good stuff from Drew DeArmond from Talking Ball. Drew, what are some things we can look forward to within Crimson Tide, even Auburn sports, that we're going to definitely touch on this week?
Of course, recruiting. Recruiting's well underway, both basketball and football, especially football recruiting with all the summer camps. I mean, we talked to Brian Matthews of AuburnSports.com, part of the Rivals Network, in hour one, and he had the report on Logan Anderson from Fife, who's a beast, who got offered by both Georgia and Auburn this weekend. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. He clocked in the 4.4s working out at Auburn and got that offer. Also got an offer from Georgia. We had a caller call in that says really his dream school is LSU. He doesn't have much interest in Alabama. He'd like to get an offer from LSU. So we'll see with the offers from Auburn and LSU. Auburn and Georgia. You would think that a workout or a visit to LSU could be set up, and he'd be able to work out for their coaches as well. So he's a tremendous student athlete from Fife, and Fife's been a power for winning 7 of the last 10, 2 and 3A state titles under Hall of Famer Paul Benefield. And so I know the Fife community loves Sand Mountain listens to us quite a bit, so we're very proud for Logan, and hopefully he's going to be able to play SEC football, which would be huge. His brother Peyton, older brother, was a really good player at Fife, and for a short period of time was a walk-on at Auburn. So Logan has always kind of been the guy, though, that you look to that might be able to, go from a smaller school like Fife to the highest level of football. So we're certainly going to watch that with a lot of, anticipation. And then with Alabama, they made a lot of inroads with Keelan Russell, their top quarterback target out of Duncanville, Texas. He's committed to SMU, but a lot of recruiting insiders, the Steve Wiltfongs, the Tom Loys, the Brett Greenbergs, those guys, Joseph Hastings that follow this very closely have they submitted a flip prediction for Keelan Russell to end up at SMU. So we'll see what happens there, but certainly to flip from SMU to Alabama, I should say, pardon me. But that would be big for Alabama because a lot of times the quarterback is can be a linchpin of the recruiting class. It's somebody that helps recruit other guys, and certainly they'd like to get a quarterback in this class because they need one. I mean, they've got 4 on scholarship right now, but it's the most transient position in college football with quarterbacks moving around. So if they could get Keelan Russell in the house, I mean, that would be huge. And then I noticed also that Alabama's already starting to set up visits in basketball as well. And coming off that Final Four, I mean, I would think Alabama, they're going to be able to get a lot of good players on campus this summer. And, of course, they're going to have their camp sessions as well. But no question that Davion Hanna from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is going to visit coming up this weekend. It's going to be an official visit. He's a top 30, 35 player in the country, so we'll see. He's been playing really well on the Nike EYBL circuit, and not to mention June is a month for basketball as well. Oh, yeah. Huntsville High, a lot of area schools that you'll be able to spend about 3 weeks with your team, really about this next month, playing on play dates and things of that nature. So this entire month of June is very important in both high school football and high school basketball.
No doubt about that. And to look at Logan Anderson, you said runs a 4.4.
Yeah.
That could be a wide receiver, Bandy. That could be one. 4.6 though, I don't know. Tyler Buckner.
He reminds me of Jacob Hester a lot, who played at LSU. He's run the ball at 5. He had over 2,800 yards, 45 touchdowns last year. He could end up being a jumbo running back on the SEC level, but I think right now they like him at inside backer. I think that's where Georgia and Auburn were working him out. So he's played defense situationally, but he doesn't play it full-time at 5 because of the workload offensively. But right now it looks like linebacker, especially inside linebacker, is where the SEC-level coaches like this guy.
You definitely see him there just picking some fun at Tyler Buckner, of course, trying to be a wide receiver for
he got a national championship ring. He came back to Notre Dame. won it in, I believe, men's lacrosse. So there you go.
Might not be the sport he wanted in, but hey, a ring's a ring, guys. And I'm still looking forward to my second fantasy football ring that I'm going to be getting. Either way, we got to hop into a break. Good stuff from Drew DeArmond. Catch him 729 on Talking Ball weekdays here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. When we come back, getting into a little bit more of the NASCAR talk, Bandy, because, then we're not going to talk about it for the rest of the week. So that's what's coming up here on the Morning Blitz on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, the Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandiman. At noon, it's the Tom Abraham Show, followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
Father do. As soon as he saw that boy, he ran to him, threw his arms around him, and killed the fatted calf for a great celebration. Hey, I'm John Dees, pastor of the Cross Point Church. If you're looking for a church home, come see us, smack dab across the street from the YMCA in Madison.
Sports Talk 24/7 365. Your full-time sports station.
You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
Is 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Doesn't anyone do any work around this joint anymore?
I'll tell you what, Bandy. I got a lot of energy in this last segment. I had the time of my life over the weekend, Bandy. This is what I did, and I gotta get you over so you can see this because my room just got 10 times cooler. I, for the very first time in my young life, I installed a wall mount for a TV, and now I have not one but two little TVs in my room, and it's looking absolutely awesome. I watched a movie over the weekend. It was about a psych ward and a woman that went into it, and I don't remember the name of the movie, but all I know is that she actually tried to befriend some of the psychos inside of that said psych ward, and that was not the route to go. And then she learned that embracing the actual the help that the psych ward's giving them will help her get out quicker. I don't know, Bandy. I just don't know. This wasn't my choice to watch this movie. It just happened, you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what movie that could be.
I'm guessing it had a budget the same as the movie Cube, which was not that much.
Cube.
I don't know if it did as successful as the movie Cube. Which, if you haven't watched the movie Cube, you should definitely watch it. But don't watch Cube 2 or 3. Cube 1, the original, is the best one. And that is a Canadian film. So
yeah, that's how I feel about Final Destination, man.
Yeah, there you go. If you're an Oilers fan, and Scary Movie, the first one was the best one.
And the Saw movies.
The Saw movies? I
got a soft spot for Saw 4.
I haven't watched any of the Saw movies, especially not the newest one where, you know, the cover of it is the guy with the little eyeball contraption on his face.
And then they came out with, like, what was it, Spiral with Chris Rock. That was kind of like a side piece to Saw, and then that was just kind of all right.
I'm not a huge horror fan guy, all right? Like Scream, not like the gory, the bloody stuff. I don't deal with that stuff. I don't care.
You see, they're starting a a multiverse though with not Freddy, Jason.
I could see that happening. I could see
the Friday
that.
the 13th multiverse.
That's going to be something I'm not even going to touch on because I can only do one multiverse, and that was Marvel, and I'm not even watching the Marvel movies now.
I can only do one multiverse too. That's Multiverse because my God, that game is kind of booty.
Okay, well, Bainey's having kind of some booty.
It came out.
I know, that's all right.
It came out. It is broken, dude.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing X-Defiant, which is a new Ubisoft game that's similar to Call of Duty, but also Overwatch at the same time. And I got to say, I'm kind of sick of the way that Overwatch was. Yeah. So why would I want to play it in a different form, in the form of X-Defiant, which, I'm kind of already done with that. So I'll stick with the hockey because I'm making the 4th or 5th rendition of the Tennessee Mutts, and I'm currently going through all of my friends, creating them and putting them in the game so that I can stream them with John on a later date. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Bandy, real quick before we get out of here, another interesting thing from Crimson Tide Athletics is going to be this the odds to win the national championship, both in college football and basketball. Their odds, according to Vegas, BetMG, all of these guys over there, it's saying plus 1,400 for both football and basketball. And that is after, of course, Mark Sears returned, Jaron Stevenson returned to Alabama, and now we just look at the season that both teams have to play, and it's obviously always tough for basketball teams to go on and win national titles, especially through that gigantic tournament that we call March Madness. But then on top of that, there's now a 12-team playoff, and it's anybody's game now when it comes to the football scene. So they're just going to throw plus 1,400 at it and say it's a day, as we look at Georgia with their plus 325 odds and Ohio State with their 375 odds. Alabama's like 6th on the football side of things. In basketball, they're probably 8, 9. Actually, that odd I think just changed. Maybe it was before or after. I don't know. It might have been before Mark Sears came back, but they were at 2,000.
Is it really like a hot? I don't know. I've been thinking about this. Is it really like a hot take to say it's like I got more expectation? Like I expect Alabama basketball to be in the Final Four this year. I expect that more than Alabama making the Final Four in college football, like in the college football playoff.
I don't know if it's a hot take, just because you're coming in with Kalen DeBoer, a little bit of similar roster, but now you're trying to run with a little bit more of the wide receiving game. I could see it definitely.
But the expectations are higher for basketball.
I totally agree, and that's the first time in a long time that we can truly say that. Bandy, I didn't get to talk about NASCAR as much as I wanted to, and we're about to get out of here, so I'll try and speed. Well, yeah, I'll try and speed run it because I could save some stories for tomorrow. Right now, sitting atop NASCAR is Denny Hamlin. He's got 3 wins on the season, 7 top 5 finishes, which is absolutely insane. He's sitting at 534 points. Behind him, Kyle Larson, still waiting for a waiver for the playoffs, mind you. Of course, he wasn't able to make it to last week's race at Charlotte. Started raining. He was there, but he didn't actually get to run a lap. And then at third is Chase Elliott, who... he won a race this season. I believe it was in a Hooters car, which is, his best paint scheme of the year. He's at 507, and he has 5 top 5 finishes. I have not really been following Chase Elliott that much. Of course, a lot of fans of this guy. But he has been doing some big stuff. If we look at what happened over the weekend, though, it was an interesting week, Bandy. We talked about it for a second at the beginning of the show. It was back and forth. Cedric was in the lead, and then he was in second, and then not William Byron, but Ryan Blaney. I almost said Ryan Priest because I'm thinking so much about Stuart Haas. There's too many names that are similar in NASCAR. Ryan Blaney, his car runs out of gas on the last lap, and he's passed by Austin Cindric, teammate. And Austin Cindric ends up winning his 2nd race of his Cup career. 1st race of the season. He's thrown into the playoffs. And then we're just thinking right now about Christopher Bell, who's sitting 8th atop the standings in NASCAR. 2 wins, 4 top 5 finishes. The thing is, it's either all or nothing with this guy. You either have a wheel popping off of his car or his engine explodes. This time his engine exploded. Tomorrow, we're going to explode on a Tipsy Tuesday here in No Man's Land. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
The new favorite place for delicious Mexican food is